Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. I'm Lauren. I'm a wife and a new mom. I came up with the idea of this podcast after struggling to find mommy groups around me when my son was born. I wanted a community of mothers I heard so many of my friends talk about when they had their children. This podcast is to help mothers like me that want a community of mothers to connect with when they have their free time. Together with my usual guest, Taryn, and other mothers, we will share our experiences, not our advice, through motherhood, and hopefully get some tips from you, the listeners. So come join us on the Mommy Escape Time podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. I am Lauren, your host, and today I am here with my friend, Teresa. Hi, Teresa.
Hello.
And Teresa is here today because she is what I would say an expert at traveling with kids. And a little background on Teresa and myself is we've known each other since grad school, and we were each other's dates for Valentine's Day for a long time. Even the first year after you got married, because I think your husband was in China.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We had been married exactly 1 month because we got married on January 14th and then on February 14th. Yeah.
Yeah. And now we live nowhere near each other. And you've had a lot of travel experience, and you're my go-to mom. So, because you went first, so even in having a boy.
Well, that's true by a couple of weeks.
Yeah, by a couple of weeks. So,
and he has been different than the girls.
Yeah, which is funny. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your family?
So we got married. My husband and I met in Connecticut, and we were neighbors. Got married in 2012. Then we had our oldest daughter in 2013. So she just turned 6 years old last week. And then I had another daughter, almost 20 months later. So in February of 2015, she was born. And then my little baby boy, Trip, he was born March of 2018. We have done a few moves in the time that they've been born. They've all been here, and we are now here in what I think is settled in North Carolina. We've been here for just over a year. We moved 2 weeks before my youngest son was born. So, so as old as he is, that's how long we've been in North Carolina.
But not in that house.
Yeah, true. We were in a little condo waiting for this house to be built, and
that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so let's talk about some traveling with kids because you've done it all. So let's start with the easier of the many. So because you even met on a cruise with all three kids too, right?
Yes, okay. Yes. And Lauren, I am just getting started. I have ideas. Oh, my husband, he just rolls his eyes because after the kids go to bed, that's all I want to talk about. I'm like, okay, where should we go next year? And he's like, I don't know. We'll see when we get there. Like next year. What are you talking about next summer? This summer just started. And I'm like, okay, so then 2 years from now, we could do this, this, and this. It's like, okay, we'll see where, whatever. I don't know what he says, but.
What most husbands say who can't see in the future like that.
Yes,
my husband's the same way, yeah. I'm like, so in 3 years when we have this, we can do this because he'll be walking, he'll be potty trained, and everything will be all set.
Yes, that's how I plan. Yes, Lauren.
That's why we're friends.
So I am just getting started. And this cruise that we just went on was a long time in the making. We planned that for over a year and a half. We started thinking about it when I was just pregnant with my baby, with Trip. So I was just newly pregnant with him. So, and now he's almost 16 months old. So
yeah,
it was a long time.
It is. Well, we'll start with cars first, and we'll end with your cruise. Okay. So, because that's the most recent thing that you've done. So,
yeah.
So traveling in a car, how many kids have you traveled with in a long distance car ride? Meaning maybe over 2 hours?
Okay. So, well, the funny thing is that it's the cruise, because because on our way home, so our cruise disembarked in Florida. And because we had gotten on the cruise in LA, we had to get back here to North Carolina somehow. So we rented a car. And that was like a 10-hour, or actually it took more like 11 hours. And so that is the longest car ride that I've taken with the 3 kids together.
And that's 3 different car seats.
3 different car seats. And it was a headache because I only brought 2 car seats because of space constraints on the cruise. Right. So I said I was just going to rent a car seat from the car rental. Don't ever do that. Don't. I mean, I had heard horror stories, but I was like, whatever. It's going to be fine. It's not like they're going to give me a car seat that's been in a crash. It's going to be fine. No, it was not. They had nothing. They had no option for my 4-year-old. So I had a car seat for my oldest daughter. She was going to be in a high back 5-point harness booster because she's small, even though she was almost 6.
Right.
She's small. I still want her in a 5-point harness. And then Vale, my 4-year-old, I wanted a convertible car seat for her. Well, guess what? They didn't have a convertible car seat. They had not a single option for her. So I had to, because the only option they had for her was a booster seat that was a lap belt. I said,
oh, no.
I looked right at the person. I said, she is 4 years old. Is she 40 pounds, ma'am? Well, that doesn't matter. That's the minimum requirement. I'm not going to put my 4-year-old daughter in a lap belt. I'm not stupid. We're going on a car ride for 11 hours.
Yeah.
I am way over the top with car seats. I am very, very on top of it when it comes to car seat safety. So I said, no way, absolutely not. So what I did was I took my son's car seat, turned it around because he's in a convertible, but it's rear facing. So fine. I just turned it around and I let Vale use that one. And then I put him, which is still not the safest because really once they turn 12 months, they should be out of an infant seat. But I put him in an infant seat in a bucket, like a bucket type seat. It was still weird though. It wasn't, I don't know. It was weird, but it made it work. It worked. It was rear facing. Fine. He technically fit the requirement for it. He wasn't too tall. He didn't weigh too much. Fine. So we got home. Anyway, we all survived. So that was a disaster. But we had rented a minivan. So we had plenty of space for all of us. And it was fine. We stopped for lunch.
And the kids were fine being in the car for that long?
The kids were fine. So we had just gotten off a 15-night cruise. They had not watched TV. Oh, I guess in the kids club, they watched movies a couple of times, but they hadn't had their iPads or their Fires. I mean, they hadn't had those for the whole cruise. So I let them just have at it. I said, here you go. And the other thing is, for me, I use their tablets as like an incentive when we travel. They get their iPads very rarely when we're at the house. Very rarely do I pull out the Fires for use inside the house. Those are travel toys because then they sit and they use them. Right. So when we're on an airplane or in the car, it's like a novel thing and they will spend hours on it because it's cool and it's novel and they haven't seen it for a long time. Right. So the older girls, they just sat and they watched their Fires, and Trip was fussy, but he just, he sleeps and then you sing to him and then you hand him a toy and he shakes it for a little bit and tosses it. And, as we get going, we'll talk about planes and things like, my plane travel. I am just of the opinion that, he'll cry and eventually we'll get to our destination and we'll all be fine.
I know. And I think that's the thing, is that people think like you're going to be in the car and they're just going to be like quiet the whole time. And I don't think that that's a logical expectation.
No,
either.
It's not.
Like they're going to be upset. And we always have taken our son up to see my mother-in-law. She lives like 3.5 hours away. And we try to stop like once halfway through. And he's pretty good, but he'll get fussy because my son does not, especially now, he doesn't stand still. He's never been a still child. So he needs that like running around time. But again, like on those travel days, I make sure, he's not like, we don't go for any walks. It's just he's outside or we're
Yes.
playing inside. So he's almost tired, and he'll normally sleep at least part of the time in the car. And I think that's you have to kind of get out of your routine when you travel, and it might start even before you travel.
Yes. So that's so there's been a couple of car rides, not with Trip, because we just haven't done as much travel in the last year and a half. We've been busy with other things. But before he was born, we were always on the go. And we've had a couple of very long car rides. And by very long, I mean 16 to 24 hours. 25 and a half was one. One of them took 25 and a half hours. And those car rides are kind of what you said, where we get out of our routine, because so any car ride that has taken that amount of time, we start it at night. I get them very tired throughout the day. That way, when they get in the car, they are already tired. They can have a little time to wind down. They can have a little time to, we'll play some kids' music, or they'll get out their fires for a little bit or whatever, but they wind down, and then it's dark outside, and then they fall asleep. And to this day, now I know that not everybody's this lucky, but all my overnight car rides have been a complete success. Both the girls, like I said, I haven't done this with Trip yet, but both the girls slept all night long on all 3 of our overnight car rides that we've done. They fell asleep around 8, 9 o'clock. They slept until 6, 7, 8 a.m. and all have gone beautifully overnight. My husband and I, we trade off driving. I am a really good night driver. I love just turning on the music, getting in my zone and going. I get coffee from, McDonald's or wherever, and I just go, and I love it. I love feeling just like I'm on the move. So I get in my zone. So my biggest tip with driving is going overnight and starting at night. So that way, when the kids wake up in the morning, we have a huge chunk of our travel time already out of the way, and we can just get the rest of it knocked out, and the kids can wake up and be on their fires or whatever. So we get in the car, they have a little bit of downtime where they watch a show or they listen to some music or whatever, and then they fall asleep when it gets dark out, or, somewhere maybe a little later than normal, like 8 or 9. And then they wake up or at 6 or 7, or maybe even a little later in the morning. And we have yet to have a problem with that. The girls have always slept the whole night. I think they just love the movement of the car, and it just has always worked out for us that they sleep through the night. My husband and I trade off driving. I always start the drive. I get in the zone, and I get a cup of coffee, and it keeps me up. I put on some 90s country music or whatever playlist I want at that time. Usually it is 90s country, because that really gets me going on a road trip. And I just drive, and I get in the zone. I sing, and I think about things, and just, it's like my own quiet time, and it's just my happy place. So I can usually stick with it all night long, and Lee gets some good sleep. That way he can do a bulk of the driving the next day. And that's has always worked out for us, and seems to work great. And then we get to see some sights when we drive too. That's really one of the things I love about road trips. And then once we wake up the next day, we do a lot of stopping along the way. We get off at different sites, and if we see something on the side of the road that we're just like, oh, we just want to see that, we'll pull off and take a little break. We find parks. We always do parks when we're on a road trip. We get off the road and just go take a half an hour break at a park or something. Let the kids run around, let them play on a playground, whatnot. So, and I love fast food.
Who doesn't?
I get to eat cruddy fast food.
I know, that's like the best part. I know, we went away for the first time for like 5 days, and I was like, wow, vacation Lauren is so much better than regular Lauren.
Right? Yeah. You just I don't know. They say, that whole saying about, you know, as a parent, you don't actually ever take a vacation. You're just taking your work to another location. I don't know. I feel like I botched that saying, but you know what I mean, right?
Right. Like there's never any breaks. Right.
Right. It's just really, moving your job to a new location because your kids are coming with you and it's still just as much work. And that's true. But being in a new location, just it's so much nicer. It's so nice to be out and seeing new sights, and I feel like it brings us closer together as a family.
Yeah, that's nice. So you've also taken at least the girls on a train before too, right?
A few train rides. Yeah. Lane has been on a lot of train rides because for her first couple of years, we were living in Connecticut and we would go into the city. I took her into the city, into New York all the time. I took her just if I wanted to go spend the day there, we would just take the train. And her first trip into the city, she was 5 weeks old on the train. So that was fun. But yeah,
and that was your first child. I just want everyone to understand that you took your first child there.
I called her my accessory. I said, she's like my best accessory. Newborns are the best. If I could skip, I feel bad because I love my son, but this is the hardest stage, the stage of he can't tell me what he wants. But he just screams for what he wants and he can't communicate with me and he's getting into everything, absolutely everything. And everything goes in the mouth and everything is a disaster waiting to happen with him. And if I could skip this part, even though he is so much fun, I know, but this is the hardest part to me, the hardest stage. Newborns, yes, maybe you don't get a lot of sleep or whatever, but they don't move.
Or
they
don't
just put
talk
them
back
somewhere.
To
you. Yes, you lay them there. They don't need a lot of entertainment. Like, you just have to make sure they're fed and changed and you cuddle them. What the heck? It's so easy. So she was my accessory. She just came everywhere with me because you can do those things anywhere. You can change a kid. You can you can feed a kid. You can cuddle a kid anywhere. So that's what I did.
And they sleep, I think, a little more easily. Like getting down for a nap is much easier as a newborn than when they're older.
Absolutely. She would sleep in her little bassinet in the stroller anywhere we were, whatever. Yes. So easy. They're not particular about where they sleep yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I'm pretty adventurous with Luke too. Like it's just the one, so it's It's just so much easier.
Right. Yes.
But then I see you with 3 and I'm like, how is she doing this?
Yeah, but that's, each one you think, how am I going to do it with another one? And then you look back and you think, oh, that was so easy with just one. But when you only have one, that's all you know. And so I get it.
But they outnumber you now.
We could get way off topic with what just happened with being outnumbered and how being at an amusement park and we lost one of our kids who was found with a security guard. And that's what happens when you're outnumbered.
Right.
That's what the poor middle kid gets lost.
But they were found, so that's all that matters.
They were found, and only after 15 minutes.
Okay, so no problem.
Shoot. Anyway.
All right, so traveling on a train, yes.
So trains, we haven't done super long train rides. These are all the train rides we've done have been short ones. And subways, that kind of thing. And then like the metro train into the city.
Right.
Or into Boston. We did that a couple of times too. I don't think there were any, like Amtrak. Trying to think back. No, nothing like that. Nothing longer than 2 hours.
Yeah. So that's like just doing a regular car ride, except you're on a train.
Except on a train. Yeah.
Yeah. So then let's move on to planes. You've done a lot with planes. You've done it with one. Have you done it with all 3?
I did do it with all 3.
And just you. You did just me. You. Yeah.
Yes. That has been one time only. And I would do it again. It really wasn't that bad. That one time, it was short. It was from Florida to North Carolina. The flight, from takeoff to touchdown was, I think, an hour and 10 minutes, something like that. Short, super short. But then there's still the stress of being dropped off at the airport, and then you have to get yourself through security because people can't come with you through security. And then you've got to get yourselves on the plane. You've got to get yourselves off the plane and get to the person who's waiting to pick you up. And there's always someone waiting to pick me up when I'm traveling with my kids. I'm not getting home any other way than with somebody, my husband, my mother, somebody is there to pick me up, my mother-in-law, whoever. So that particular plane ride, my trip was a baby. So he was only a few months old. So he was still in that very easy to travel stage. He didn't want to move. He just laid in my arms, and the girls watched their fires on the plane. So,
and they've been on planes before. So they're used to they know the drill.
And my oldest daughter has always been a fantastic plane goer. Flyer. She's always been fantastic. I would say even as a baby, and as a 1-year-old, which in my opinion is the worst age to travel with on a plane, that kind of 9 months to 18 months or even 2 years is awful on a plane because they don't understand why we have to sit down, and there's nothing that can make them want to sit down for that long. They want to be mobile, and you can't reason with them, and you can't give them any kind of activity that's going to engage them for long enough to sit. So anyway, at that particular plane ride that we took was nice and easy. Cause he just sat there. The girls were on their fires. The couple of times we had a struggle was, what did I need to do that I'm trying to think. I don't even remember, but I do remember I stood up with Trip in my hand and I looked around at all the people on the plane. I said, okay, who wants to hold a baby for 5 seconds? I literally just said that out loud, and somebody stood up and held him for me because there was something that I needed my hands. I don't remember what it was. If maybe I needed to get a bag down from up top to get something out for the girls, or I don't know, but, that's what it was, because we had just landed and in order to get my bag down, somebody had to hold the baby. I guess I could have just asked them to take the bag, but whatever. I just stood up, handed the baby off to a stranger.
It's not like they can go anywhere.
Right. And that's one of the things I have found is I'm not one of those moms that's going to go on the plane and pass out little, goodie bags to everyone around me. Sorry, my kid's going to be loud. No, you pay just as much for this flight as I did. Actually, I paid more because I bought all these seats. Okay. So you can just deal with it. And I'm real. I'm like, listen, I need help. Does somebody want to hold a baby?
Right. I always think that's so funny because, like, in order for me to go visit my mom, she lives kind of near Orlando. So the airport that I would be flying to is Orlando. I'm not passing out bags for people. Everyone has a kid on that flight. I don't expect it to be a quiet flight.
Sure.
So it's not like we're going to Australia and it's an overnight flight and, everyone's trying to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Now, speaking of people trying to sleep on a night flight, my most recent flight was only with 2 of my kids, my younger 2, so my 4-year-old and my 1-year-old. And it will go down. Well, so far in all my 6 years of traveling with kids, it was the worst plane ride out of all. And I've done almost 60. My oldest daughter has been on almost 60 planes, 60 flights. I can't remember the exact number, but a lot. This one, Lane, my oldest daughter, was not on this flight. It was just my baby and my 4-year-old. My husband was traveling on another flight a couple days later with Lane. But I was taking the youngest kids out to California to get ready for the cruise. And it was a late night flight, which usually works out well for me. That's kind of what I like to do because I have the same method as in cars where I let them kind of wind down on the airplane. We eat dinner. I always pack a dinner because also when you're traveling with kids, you can take anything on an airplane. I bring milk, I bring juice, I bring water, I bring everything. I don't know at what age they might start to question me, but they have never questioned me yet. I always just announce it as I'm going through security. I say I have milk or I have juice, And then they usually ask me, okay, just take it out, and they scan it, and then I'm on my way. Never once has there been an issue. So little tip there. With kids, it all goes, well, the younger ones especially.
Right.
So anyway, I always pack a dinner, and we eat dinner on the plane. We watch a show or do whatever. I usually have them already in their pajamas. That way, when we get to our destination, they are already ready for bed, and I can just stick them right in bed when we get wherever we're going. Again, obviously, only if it's a night flight, which I like. That's what I like to do. So anyway, this particular flight was a night flight. I did my usual routine of eating dinner and winding down, having a show, playing a little bit. I was not lucky enough to get a third free seat, which I usually try to do. I try to book flights strategically. I book them on Tuesdays or Wednesdays or Thursdays when there's less people traveling. I guess Thursday is a little busier. Tuesday and Wednesday, I think, are the least busy travel days. And those are the days I try to fly. I try to book flights that are not as popular. So the night flights sometimes are not as popular. And I try to fly in not so common times of the year too. Now that my oldest daughter's in school, that's proving to be a little more difficult, but in the past, that's what I had always done. Was I traveled not in the summer. I traveled in the fall and in the spring, and not during spring break, but January, February time. So anyway, this particular flight did not work out so nicely for me. I had someone sitting next to me who was great. He was wonderful. I felt so bad because during the flight, I was like, this poor guy, because he was a young guy. He was probably in his mid-20s. And I was like, he is probably so miserable sitting next to me, because Trip would not calm down. Screamed, flailed, flung through stuff, banged things, cry. I mean, everything you can think of for almost the entire flight. And we were going from North Carolina to California. So it was from takeoff to touchdown, 4.5 hours, but probably 5 hours sitting in the plane, when you're boarding and whatnot and getting to the gates and leaving the gate. And he just couldn't calm himself. And there was nothing I could do. And I didn't have that extra seat. Oh, what I was trying to say was I always try to get an extra seat by traveling at those better times. I try to secure that extra third seat for free, because I don't believe in paying for it. Now, if I can get my mom to pay for it, which sometimes she does, then I'm lucky. But I'm not going to pay for it myself. So I didn't have the extra seat. So this poor guy sitting next to me, Vale is on the other side of me, my 4-year-old, and she also couldn't fall asleep, but she just kind of whined here and there, asked for cookies. She had about 20 packs of cookies, I think. Every time the stewardess came by, can I have more cookies? Yeah. Just eat them up, whatever
you want.
My kids are allowed any amount of snacks, sugar, whatever they want on an airplane, because whatever keeps them happy. I always bring extra snacks, extra sugary things for them, because that calms them down. It makes them
and
stop
it's like
crying.
a treat. If you're not getting it all the time, it's a treat. So you're able to do that.
Exactly. So I'm kind of on an airplane, there's not a lot of rules. Whatever it takes. But nothing worked. Nothing was working on this flight. So at some point I just had to give up in my head. I just was like, you know what? This flight is a loss. It's just what it is. I just have to start counting down the minutes until we land, only 4.5 more hours. And we landed, and then the guy was really nice. He was like, when he finally fell asleep for like at the last half an hour. Okay, great. And the guy was like, when he finally fell asleep, I felt so happy for you, because you deserved a break. And I was like, oh, thank you. So
Yeah, because
Anyway,
honestly, when you think about it, if you're that person there, you could blare whatever television show you have going on at
exactly.
least. So, I mean, you're not the one dealing with it. When it's you dealing with it, it's totally different. So,
Exactly. And so I mean, I had to, as flail, imagine this kid, and he's heavy.
yeah.
He's like almost 30 pounds. He is my chunker kid. My girls are teeny tiny, and he is, bang, he's going to be my quarterbacker. Like quarterback?
This is why we can't always do a podcast because we'll just start laughing like this.
Quarterback. Okay. I can't let my husband listen to this. Linebacker. That's what I was trying to say. Linebacker. He's going to be my linebacker because he's huge. And so he's flailing. And I'm just having to wrangle him. Like I'm doing everything I can to keep him just sitting down. We got up and walked around a little bit, but then he's hitting people in in the rows. So that wasn't working out either. He was just miserable. And I did find out he actually was getting sick. So that made it, probably was making the problem even worse. But I didn't know that at the time. So anyway, he was trying to kick himself out of my arms for 4 hours. It was miserable.
And you were alone, of course. Yeah.
And I'm alone. But look, I survived, and here I am. And I can talk about it and laugh about it and make up football terms. So
exactly. So it's fine.
So you survive. Everything comes to an end. It's fine. It's fine.
Do you remember the first flight that you took with Lainey? Do you feel like you overpacked, did it? How old was she? Was she 6?
She was 3 months old.
3 months old? Okay.
And so the only thing that I think I didn't need to do, so my mom flew from California to fly with me to Florida. Because
she went from California to Connecticut, and then Connecticut with you down to Florida.
Because she didn't want me traveling alone with Lane. And I remember telling her at the time that I could do it. And she was like, oh, let me just come. And I really, truly could have done it. She was 3 months old. Where was she going to go?
Right.
What was she going to do? It was so easy. But overpacking, I don't know that I've ever been an overpacker. I think that I've always been pretty good. I don't remember overpacking. No, I really don't think so. There's one thing I can think of that I brought, but I even think I needed it. I brought a little sling for her to use in the bath when we were in Florida, because I wasn't staying with people who had a kid, and she couldn't sit up yet, so washing her in a sink wasn't super easy. But once I had Vale, my second, I washed her and I bathed her in a sink when we were living in a hotel. And she was like 5 weeks old. So I could have just bathed her in a sink and maybe didn't need to bring that sling, because that sling was bulky. That might have been the only thing that I didn't need to pack, but I've always been pretty good about that.
Yeah. And you said you definitely bring car seats if you're going to rent a car. You never.
The trip that I took from Florida to North Carolina was the only time that I have ever rented a car seat, because I always just travel with them because I know my car seats. I'm comfortable with them. I know how to install them, and I know that they're going to work for us. So yeah, so I always bring my car seats.
Yeah, that's good. All right. So the last thing is traveling on a boat or a cruise with kids.
So I've done 2. We did our first cruise, was a shorter one. It was only 7 nights, and it was in Alaska I only had Lane. So she was 14 or 15 months at the time. And that was fine and great. We had a lot of family, and we didn't have a lot of kids yet. There weren't a lot of kids. So a lot of adults to only one kid made it very easy, because there was always one adult that wanted to stay back while Lane was napping or whatever. So I never felt like I couldn't go do things around the boat. This most recent cruise was 15 nights. We went from LA down through the Panama Canal and up to Florida. And we had a lot more kids on this one. We had my 3, and then we had my niece, who is when we were on the cruise, she was 21 months old, so not quite 2. So we had my almost 6-year-old, my 4-year-old, my niece, who was almost 2, and then my 1-year-old, he was like 14 months. And 4 kids and 5 adults. So my husband, myself, my sister, her husband, and my mother. We had 3 rooms. The best thing I brought, now this only is necessary if you have more than 1 room, but the best thing I brought was our monitor, our baby monitor.
I never would have thought of that. Yeah.
I don't know what made me think of it even, but it was the lifesaver of the trip, because both the babies, the 21-month-old, my niece, and my baby, my 14-month-old at the time, they both needed to nap. And we didn't want them napping in the same little teeny tiny room, because then they might not have fallen asleep so easily. So we would put them in 2 of the rooms, and I had a camera on each of them because I have 2 cameras. So I put a camera in each room on each of the babies, and then I had the monitor. And so anyone who was going to be not out and about on the ship, anyone who was going to be in one of the rooms would just come to the 3rd room. Because like I said, we had 3 rooms.
Right.
So one of the rooms, there was never a baby napping in. So that was kind of like the room to congregate in. And then I had the monitor. So then the babies could be sleeping in the other 2 cabins, and we didn't need to be in them because they connected via the balcony. So they weren't connecting staterooms,
right,
but they connected via the balcony. So we didn't have to go out the room to get to we could just open the sliding glass door from the balcony.
Yeah.
So we would sit out on the balconies, or we would sit in that 3rd room with the monitor while the babies napped. And it was a huge lifesaver, because we could come and go as we pleased in that 3rd room and on the balconies. And the babies got naps every day, especially Trip. He got very, very sick in the first few days on the cruise. I had to go to the infirmary twice for him, my poor little guy. He had, I can't remember what he had. He had a double ear infection, but then he had bronchitis. I don't know, something else that he needed all kinds of antibiotics for. And he was sleeping like 18 hours a day and was miserable. But then he got better, and the rest of the cruise was really great.
And I think that's kind of good that like people know that, you can travel and there are still options. Like if you need to go to a doctor, there are, like on a cruise ship, there is a doctor. And
there is.
I mean,
yes,
there are doctors around the whole world, and it's not just your doctor, unless of course you have very special needs with your child. Right. But, it's okay if your kids get sick when you're not at home.
Yes, and they had the antibiotics that he needed. They had them on the ship, and then when he needed a different antibiotic, they also had that other antibiotic, and so they were well stocked. Now the bummer was that your insurance didn't work out, and on a cruise ship it typically wouldn't work out. I don't know about internationally, like not on a cruise ship, but if you're in another country, I haven't dealt with that yet, thankfully. But on the cruise ship, I just had to pay out of pocket, but it wasn't crazy. I think for for all the medicine and both the visits, it was maybe a couple $100, which in the grand scheme of a 15-night cruise,
right?
And to make my kid happy on the cruise, it was It
right,
saved him and it saved
mind.
us.
Like money doesn't mean anything once your kid is okay. Like that's
right. Exactly.
You just need that option,
Exactly. So, yep. So it was easy. He got better and we enjoyed the rest of our cruise. And the thing that I kind of have learned when doing these longer trips, like we've done longer trips like that on a cruise or to Canada or wherever we're going, when we're doing a lot of sightseeing, is the kids just have to roll with it. Yeah, we're not going to get a nap every day. We're not going to do, this every day. if we're out and about sightseeing all day and the babies want a nap, I wear Trip. I still wear him even though he's 15 months. I was wearing Veil up until she was 3. I only recently stopped wearing her. But they like to be
they like that cuddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he'll fall asleep still if I'm wearing him. He'll fall asleep or he'll sleep in the stroller. If he gets that tired,
Yeah.
he'll fall asleep in the stroller or or if he doesn't fall asleep, okay, then he doesn't fall asleep. Like, I don't stay on a routine when I'm traveling. It's just roll with it. And the same kind of thing, like I said, on an airplane. If they're overtired and cranky, you know what always works? Chocolate. Here's some chocolate. You'll be fine. Let's just keep going.
In my family, it's ice cream, but yes, same thing.
Yes, ice cream. Oh my gosh. Oh,
because that like keeps them busy. It takes them a while to eat it.
Yes.
And,
yes. Yeah. I was going to say the ice cream man just came down my street after my daughter was already in bed tonight. She runs out of her room. The ice cream man, get back in bed, Vale. We're not getting ice cream when you're already supposed to be sleeping. Anyway, yes. So the ice cream is big.
Yeah. But that's good. That's good. Because I actually, we're not traveling on a plane this year because my mom has been traveling so much to see my brother and I because we both had kids. Mm-hmm. But we are going next summer down to visit my mom in Orlando. And it's so funny because I kept thinking like, oh, maybe I'll just, rent a stroller or rent a car seat when I get down there from the rental car company. And mm-hmm. now I haven't heard anyone say anything good about it, even in Orlando. So I would it's free. You check it at the gate and that's just, you have to wait. But I think once you have kids, you just learn that you're not single anymore and it's not just you that you worry about. So
the one thing about flying with car seats is how much it adds to the stuff you have. Yeah. When I travel, I look like a one-man circus because I've got a car seat on my back and I'm using my I always bring my double stroller. I don't know what I'm going to do when I have no excuse to bring a double stroller anymore because I use it for my luggage. I put a car seat on there and I pile up the luggage on there. The kids always walk and the stroller is for luggage storage.
Well, they all can walk, so it's fine.
So anyway, it adds a lot it makes it bulky, but it's totally worth it when you get to your destination.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. Any last minute tips or anything else you want to add for people that are traveling with kids?
Just go.
Don't be afraid.
No, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of mishaps. Don't be afraid of things that might happen. Just go and explore because those are you're making memories and good memories or bad memories. Some of the bad memory, the troubles I've had on airplanes. Oh my gosh. Once my oldest daughter, she peed all over me and I always bring an extra outfit for her, but I didn't bring an extra outfit for me. I had to just sit the rest of the flight with pee all over myself. Like bad memories, but they stick with you. And I've got that memory for life now. Yep. I was the person that had pee all over me on an airplane. And then you learn always pack an extra outfit for yourself too. So anyway, I just think it's never going to be perfect.
Think about your life, even if you have a schedule routine, it doesn't go perfect then. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And the other thing is your vacations don't always have to be, directed towards your kids. It doesn't always have to be like Disney or a kid-friendly beach destination. It doesn't always have to be that. Like we just did Panama Canal, the least kid-friendly vacation I could think of because it was a cruise ship full of old people who were turning up their noses at our kids. Like our neighbors on the cruise hated us. They complained about us. And I was like, what are you going to do? I mean,
right. You have 4 kids. What are you going to do?
What am I going to do? Sorry. Yeah. See, I'm over it. we did the cruise. We enjoyed it. We had a great time, and we got past it, and so we lived through it and had a great time. So all these little mishaps that might happen, it's fine. And so what I was saying about doesn't have to be kid friendly, because you find things in kids live in all the cities that you visit.
Right.
All the cities that we visited on the cruise, there were kids there. So my kids met other kids in these in Costa Rica, in Nicaragua, in Panama. My kids met other kids, local kids, and they played on the playgrounds with local kids. That's pretty cool. Those are the kinds of experiences that I want my kids to have. And yes, I want to go to Disney. Absolutely. Yes, and I do, and we do. My daughter's currently on her way home from Disney World as we speak. So yes, we do those, but it's not all directed towards kids. Like you can make anything kid friendly, unless it's like an adult only,
right?
All inclusive.
So they're not
That's
invited
different.
anyways. Yeah,
but
you don't really want them on a romantic trip, anyways.
Yeah. But everything else is kid friendly. So I mean, it can be kid friendly. You can find a park, a playground. You can find things that will be entertaining for your kids anywhere, and then they'll learn about other cultures, and that's really cool to me.
Yeah, I think that's great. Okay, well, thank you, Teresa, for coming on and talking to us.
Yeah.
And I know you've been on a few times before, but not like this. So
yeah.
Hopefully we'll get to hear a little more. Of course, we're going to have to do a moving episode.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yes. So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you again for coming on, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lauren.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
So that was Teresa's interview. I hope you all enjoyed it. I definitely learned a lot. I will definitely be bringing my car seat on the plane anytime that I travel, and then I'm going to have either someone come pick me up and we're going to use their car, or if I have to rent a car. I never even thought about that much, but I definitely think about it now all the time. And I think Teresa's just very honest in that kids are kids and they're everywhere. So, your point is to travel and expose them to what you can and do what's comfortable for you. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you would like to check us out on social media, we're mostly on Instagram, but of course, Facebook and Twitter at Mommy Escape Time. And hopefully you'll subscribe. And yes, Teresa will be back to do more episodes because we had way too much fun doing this. And it's nice for us to actually see each other, even though we're far away. So we'll see you next time on the Mommy Escape Time podcast. Bye.